All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we got chapter 10.3, the ellipse. We're going to finish up the second part here. We're doing examples 4 and 5. So basically focusing on goal number 3, where we have the center of this thing moving around. The H and K is now not at 0, 0. Okay? So little reminders on what all these things are. Remember, your center is your H and K. We always say H is with X, K is with Y, and opposite of what you see in parentheses. We talked about A is the big guy. So the big guy's underneath the X, it goes left and right, A. And if the B is underneath the Y, we go up and down B or vice versa. Okay? So A is the center to your major vertices. That B value is the center to the minor. And then we use this little formula here. C squared equals A squared minus B squared to find C. And C is from the center to your foci. Okay? So we don't say focuses, we say foci plural. All right? All right, so here we go. We got example 4 and 5. You'll start seeing that these guys are moving around. So you look at these pictures here now, the H and K is moving. But everything kind of stays the same, right? Look to see where the big guy is. If the big guy's underneath the X, well now your vertices aren't on the x-axis, they're parallel to the x-axis. And if the A value is underneath the Y, now it's going up and down stretched. That's your major axis. Okay. So here we go. Let me zoom out just a touch. So I got example 4 for us. So we take a look. I've got x plus 5 quantity squared plus 4 times the quantity y minus 4, and that's squared. And that equals 16. So I take a look. So I take a look, and I got to get this equal to 1. So we said this yesterday. How do you get this guy equal to 1? What do you got to do? What do you got to do, Joshua?
Divide by 16.
Yeah, divide everything, each side. When you divide this side, divide all of them by 16. Perfect. Okay, always want to equal to 1 before you get started. Okay, so as I take a look, I got x plus 5, quantity squared over 16. Here the 4 and the 16 reduce. So that gives me y minus 4, quantity squared over 4. And now 16 over 16 is that 1. So this is the equation we're working with. With that information, I should be able to pick out my center, my vertices, and my radius. And I'll need my A's, B's, and C's to do that. So here's my center, my vertices. I always just ask you to give me the minor, and then your focus, plural, is foci. All right? All right. H and K, what's their H, what's their K? Opposite of what you see. What's their H, what's their K? Dom, what's H and K, bud?
H and K are -5 and 4.
There you go. H is with X, K is with Y, opposite of what you see. Dom said -5, 4. Boom. So we go ahead and graph that guy. We go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in quadrant number 2. Perfect. Okay. People that get this one wrong, they put this guy in the wrong quadrant. They'll actually do 5, -4 because they don't take opposite of what you see like you should. They'll put it over here. They'll go over 5, down 4. All right. A. I need the A value. What's A? What do you guys got for A? What's the big guy? Ben, what's A? Yeah, so A squared is the big guy. This is the little guy. That's B squared. So if you need to, set A squared equal to 16 up here, and we square root it. And we know the square root of 16 is 4. That's underneath the X, so which way do I go? Up, down, or left and right? Let me get it all on here. Which way do we go? Viv, which way do we go? If it's underneath the X's. Yeah, x-axis goes left and right, so we go left and right 4. So I count over 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go over 1, 2, 3, 4. Mark those with the V. Okay. I do ask that you come up with those vertices. So one way to do this, guys, is to just look at your origin and then count over 1 up 1, 2, 3, 4. So -1, 4, and this would be over 9 and up 4. So -9, 4. Now here's another trick. Here's another trick. We're at our center, right? And we move left or right. What value changed? The x or the y? X values, right? So all we're doing is essentially adding 4 and subtracting 4 to that x value. So if I'm at -5, 4, and I take -5 and I add 4, that's -1, 4. And if I'm at -5 and I subtract 4, that's -9, 4. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Start at your center, and if you're moving left to right, just add or subtract your a value to your x value. Okay, that's kind of what is up here. Okay, here's your center h and k. To get this point, just add a to h. And to get this point, add or subtract a from h. That's kind of that idea. Okay. All right, B. I need my b value. B. Tommy, what's b? We know a squared was 16. What's b squared? Nope. What's the little guy? What's the little guy down there? 4. So b squared is 4. So square root that guy. And that guy's 2. That's underneath the y. So again, whatever's underneath the y's, we go up and down. Whatever's underneath the x, we go side to side. If it just happens to be the x one's bigger, it's stretched more left and right. The y one's smaller, so it's smaller up and down. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we make a nice, pretty ellipse. Again, these are curved, like ovals. So there we go. Not perfect, but not too bad. I'll take that. All right, any questions? Last but not least, we got to come up with that foci. That foci is that formula we talked about, c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Now don't use a and b. Go down here and grab the big minus the little. Okay, take 16 minus 4. And 16 minus 4 is 12. And now we square root that. Okay, so 16 minus 12. What's 6? 16 minus 12 is 4. Excuse me. 16 minus 4 is 12. And break down 12, the square root of 12. We got what? 4 and 3, 2 and 2. We got a pair of 2's. So we write that as 2 root 3. Okay, now we still got to graph 2 root 3, right? So here's the big picture idea when you're looking at this. Okay, here's a number line. The square root of 9, we all agree, is 3, right? And the square root of 16 is 4. And the square root of 12 is somewhere in between that, right? Square root of 12 is somewhere here. So if you don't have a calculator, just know your square roots. Square root of 12 is in between the square root of 9 and square root of 16, in between 3 and 4. So all I got to do is go over 3-ish and over 3-ish, left or right. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3-ish. And I think if you type in the square root of 12, we said it was 3.46 yesterday. And then over 1, 2, 3-ish. There we go. All right. Now, do want to write the foci. You got to tell me what those values are. I want exact values, so I want it in terms of roots. Okay. Here's the big idea. is we started at the center and we added and subtracted 2 root 3, left or right. We added or subtracted the 3.46. So here's the idea. I'm at my center, and I went left to right 2 root 3. That means I added 2 root 3 and subtracted 2 root 3 to that x value. So I started at my center, and I added this to both sides, to the x value. So the way we write that is negative 5 plus or minus 2 root 3, comma 4. So this is basically adding 3.46 and to negative 5. That's like negative 8.46, this guy. And if I'm at negative 5 and I add 3.46, that puts me right about there, like 1.54 negative. That's kind of the idea. Now, quiz or test, if you guys give me the decimal, I will be giving you about half a point off. I want exact values. You'll see all the answer keys are exact. Okay. I don't make a big deal about it, but you should be able to do that. All right, any questions what I'm doing with the foci? Because that's the in my part, I think that's the confusing thing for some of y'all. I can re-explain that. Any questions? There we go, gang. We get it set up. We pick out our H and K. That's our base where we start, our center. From there, we pick out A and B, big guy, little guy, square root those, and then find C. So we can graph our vertices and foci. Ladies and gentlemen, last one for today. Here we go. Last one. OMG. We got this guy here. Oh, man. We're trying to get that to look like this. Oh, man. How do we get this to look like this? Suggestions. What do you got? Ideas. Reese, any ideas?
No.
No ideas. Look at this. I got 4x squared plus 3y squared plus 8x minus 6y equals 5. OMG. Brian. We're going to do some factoring. Not yet, though. We got to do a little extra work before we do that. But we are going to factor. Yes. Viv.
Put the x's on the other side, and you do like what's it called? Complete the square.
We are going to do some completing the square, and here's the idea: is we have the x's and y's on the same side, but I like what you're saying is like, hey, let's group them together. Okay, so we definitely want to do that first. Okay, so these are all great ideas, guys. This is called brainstorming. We throw out some ideas, and I say, yeah, I love it. Let's do it. So we're going to group the x's and the y's on the same side this time. A little different than a vertex, or with finding the vertex with a parabola. So I got 4x squared plus 8x, leave some room. I've got 3y squared minus 6y, leave some room, and that equals this 5. Now, if this 5 was over here, I would subtract or add it over to get it out of my way. Okay? So now we've grouped the x's, grouped the y's, and I literally want you to group the x's, and now I want you to take out the leading coefficient, because we are going to complete the square. And to do that, when there's a number in front, we got to factor that number out from both terms. So I'm going to take out a 4, and that leaves me with x squared plus 2x. And I'll leave some room in that parenthesis. And now I want you to group the y's. Take out the leading coefficient, which is plus 3. And now that leaves me with y squared minus 2y. Leave some room in there. And that equals 5. Okay, so I grouped my x's, I grouped my y's, and I took out the leading coefficient from both of those guys. Took out a 3. Give me that. So far, so good. Any questions where I'm at so far? Now we are going to complete the square. Okay, we're going to take our b value. I'll do this side, I'll do the x's in red. Take by b, divide by 2, and square it. What's b? What's b? I'll highlight it. What's b? What do you got? B. Joey, what's b? It's the number in front of x.
In front of x, 1, right?
The number in front of x, not x squared. 2. This guy. That's b. The idea is ax squared plus bx plus c. The number in front of x is b. So we take the b, we divide it by 2 and square it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Everybody okay with that? Whoa! You added 1 over here. Whoa! What did you really add to both sides? And it's not 1. What did you really add to this side when you put 1 in this parenthesis? What did you really add over here? What would happen if I was to distribute back? What would you get? You would get 4, right? So if I was to distribute back, this would be 4 times 1, which is, whoa, 4. You really added 4 to that side. So you got to add it to this side to keep it equal. Are you guys okay with that, what I just did? So again, if you're adding inside of parentheses, think of the multiplier on the outside. So you really added 4 times 1, which is 4. Marie?
Is that plus or minus 4?
That's just plus 4 here. Little line there. Sorry about that. So I added 4. So I usually put a line there, so I put those in the right spots there. Sorry about that. All right, next. We'll do the next one in orange. Although I don't like putting blue and orange together because I'm kind of upset with the Bears right now. But we'll use orange here. So I got red and orange. All right, take your B. Joey, what's B for the Y? -2, and it doesn't matter. You forget the negative because you're going to square it. -2 divided by 2 is -1, and -1 squared is 1. Whoa. What did you really add to this side? Think of your multiplier. What did you really add over here? What do you got? Show me fingers. 3. What side? So you really added 3 times 1, which is 3. Okay? Is everybody okay with that? So this guy here, I'll do double line underneath. That's this guy. Okay? Got to think of the multiplier. All right, we factor, right? Teach me how to factor. Teach me how to factor. Again, we're looking to factor this trinomial. We should get 2 binomials that are exactly the same. Okay, what are factors of this red one that add up to 2? What do you get? What are factors of 1 that add up to 2, guys? X plus 1 and x plus 1, which is x plus 1 quantity squared. So if you need to, write that out. Factors of 1 that add up to 2. The only way you can factor 1 is 1 and 1 or -1 and -1, right? 1 plus 1 is 2, so that works out. X plus 1 and x plus 1, or x plus 1 squared. And we do it for the y's. We should get a quantity squared. Factors of this orange one that add up to -2. Y, what? Shout it out. Factors of 1 that add up to -2. -1 and -1, or y minus 1 squared. Okay. If you need to, I'll write that out for you. Factors of y squared, or y and y. Factors of a positive one that add up to -2 are -1 and -1. Those quantities should be the same. That's why it's called completing the square. We should have a quantity squared when we're done. The right side, we just add these up. 5 plus 4 plus 3 is 12. Last step. We're essentially where we were in example 4 to start. Last step before we can graph this thing. Get rid of this 12. This is the moment of truth. When we divide this over, moment of truth, is these numbers, this 4 and 3, should completely disappear. All right? So 4 and 12 reduce, gives me a 3 there. X plus 1 quantity squared over 3. Here the 3 and the 12 reduce to a 4 on the bottom. I get y minus 1 quantity squared over 4. And then 12 divided by itself is 1. There we go. So if I look at this one, oh man, super scary. Super duper scary, but not that bad. We grouped our x's. If we had a constant, we move it to the right using addition or subtraction. We factored out a 4, the leading coefficient. We factored out a 3. Left some room so we can complete the square. We took our b, divided by 2, and squared it. Whoa, whoa. Quadruple whoa, because it was multiplied by 4. Triple whoa, because it was multiplied by 3. We went ahead and factored and divided over, and this is what we got. Now we can graph this thing, right? So let me zoom out a little bit. Let's graph. Any questions of where I got this guy? Any questions? H, K, easy peasy. Center, vertices, foci. H and K, here we go. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit more here. All right, here we go. H and K, opposite what you see. Ben, what do you get for H and K? Negative 1, 1. Perfect. So we're back in quadrant number 2 here. I'm going to go over 1, up 1. There's my center. Mark that with a C. All right, vertices. We need our A value, right? So A, B, and C. A, big guy. This is A squared. This is B squared. So again, A squared is 4. We square root that. So we get 2. All right, so which way am I going? Up, down, left, or right? 2 from your center. What do you say? What's it under? Lauren, which way are we going? Up and down. It's underneath the y's. The y-axis goes up and down, so we go up and down 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. So there's our major vertices. So you can graph those and label those. This is over 1, down 1, so that's negative 1, negative 1. And this is over 1, up 1, 2, 3, so that's negative 1, 3. Okay. Here's the idea. We went up and down 2. That's changing the y value from your center. So if I take 1 plus 2, that's 3. And if I take 1 minus 2, that's negative 1 for that y value for the vertice. Don't have to do that, but that's just another way to look for those. Okay. But b squared is 3. So b squared is 3. And square root that guy. And we get the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 is about 1.7 in my calculator. It's a little less than the square root of 4, right? Square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to go over almost to 2, but not quite. So I'm going to go left and right, 1.7-ish over 1.7-ish. You don't have to come up with those vertices unless you want to. So again, from my center, I went over 1.7-ish. It's pretty close to a circle, but not quite. Last thing I need is my C value. I'll just do that off to the side here. So again, C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. As I take a look, A squared is 4 and B squared is 3. So make sure you don't take 2 and root 3. Make sure you grab A squared and B squared. So take the big and little from the original equation. 4 minus 3. C squared is 1. So that means the square root of 1 is 1 for C. Okay, so again, 4 minus 3 is 1, square root of. So I'm going to go up and down 1 to come up with that foci. So from my center, I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to go down 1. And I can zoom in a little bit so you can see this graph here. Okay, so in my center, I went up 1, down 1. So that foci is at -1, 0. And it's at -1, what is that? Up 1, 2, -1, 2. And I'm zoomed in too much. So my final foci, -1, 0, -1, 2 for that. Let me get it all here. So again, -1, 1 was my center. I went up and down 2. That gave me vertices of -1, -1, and -1, 3. I went left and right root 3, which is again about 1.7. Okay, that was underneath my x. That's why I went left and right. We found our c value to be 1, so I went up and down 1 there. And that put my vertices at -1, 0, -1, 2. Okay. Any questions, y'all? So, ladies and gentlemen, on the OMG scale, that's probably like an 8 on the Oh My Gotch scale. Okay. It's not easy. It's going to require practice. You've never done that before, so you're going to require to do these, okay, and get some practice on it. So, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for our notes for today. You guys have a great day.